Hey everyone, good evening, good night. It's Kate. Uh, I'm here in the Bookkeeping Side Hustle group, and I'm glad to be here. It's Friday, January 3rd, for those of you who are watching this later. And I'm glad to have everyone here. Tonight is just going to be a general question and answer with me. Anyone who wants to ask a question, just feel free to chime in. And it's just sort of an ask me anything. I wanted to do this right as the new year started for 2020. I thought there might be a lot of people who have just some energy behind getting their businesses going, so I wanted to make myself available. So as we are here tonight, this will be much more informative if y'all ask me questions. I do have some stuff to talk about, but I'd much rather answer what y'all have me answer. All right, so yeah, so I don't have any like catchy music or anything. If anyone out there listening is like, some great at YouTube or whatever and can like get me some bumpin' intro music or something, let me know. Okay, so who am I? I'm going to introduce myself a little more thoroughly for those of you who aren't too familiar. And while I'm doing that, if y'all want to introduce yourselves, whoever's listening, and just kind of say where you are on your journey, that's on your bookkeeping journey, that would be great too. But I'm Kate Johnson, and I've had a company for about 2.5 years, I guess. I'm intentionally small. My bookkeeping company is intentionally small. For instance, like last year, my goal was to get 3 new clients, and I did that right at the end of the year. And I haven't fully finalized my goals for 2020, but that's going to be kind of roughly where I am too. So I am not someone who's going to tell you like how to get 100 clients in a year. Yeah, so I am an actual virtual bookkeeper and have clients. And then I also run this Bookkeeping Side Hustle Facebook group. So if you're watching this after the fact, feel free to look on Facebook for the group name, Bookkeeping Side Hustle Group, and feel free to join. But I've been running this group for it's a little over a year, and then I started a website in May to try to host all of my ideas. A lot of people ask the same questions, and so I just thought if I could just put it up on like my answers up on a blog, then I'd be able to give people a more thorough answer more readily by just sharing a link. And so those are the resources kind of that I manage as a part of this group. Just the day-to-day action in the Facebook group, and then bookkeepingsidehustle.com. And I think a lot of people don't know that there is a website that I have. So please go check that out. Spend some time there. I think there's some pretty good stuff there. So yeah, that's me. Let's see. Okay, so I wrote some stuff down. Okay, yes. Before we get started, I wanted to share one quick thing. Before we dive in, if you feel compelled at the end of this, you can go to bookkeepingsidehustle.com/support. And if you just take 30 seconds, you can read that page, and you don't have to support me tonight. I just want to let y'all know to go there, and as you're on your bookkeeping journey, there are some ways that you can show your support to me. There are some different links from stuff that I'd recommend. There's also free ways to help, like y'all can subscribe to my YouTube channel or follow me on Pinterest, stuff like that. So Paula, you asked for the website name again. Let me see if I can type it in actually. It's www.bookkeepingsidehustle.com. And then if you want to go to read that support page, it's /support. So I'll put that there. Thanks for asking, Paula. All right. So again, chime in with questions, you guys. One thing I do want to emphasize on this, and if you are in the Facebook group, you'll see a big picture at the beginning, the top of the group. It's a banner, and it says, hustle does not mean hobby. And I just want to emphasize that. I try to emphasize it at every chance that I get, that this particular line of work can be done as a side hustle. But all I mean by that is that, you know, it's not 40 hours a week working for someone else where you have to leave your house. It can be done flexibly. It can be done with less than full-time hours. But it is not a hobby. It is a serious profession, and it's a, you know, accounting is something that takes a long time to learn. And I just want to make sure that a lot of people in this group are new, and they're just, you know, intrigued by the concept of side hustle. And that's great. And everyone should have a side hustle. I'm all about that. But don't think that this is the kind of work where you can just kind of dabble in, come in and out, not have to take it too seriously. So that's why that picture's at the top of the Facebook group. It is this is a side hustle, but it does not mean it's a hobby. But if you stick around, you're going to get the support you need to actually learn all this stuff. Let's see, what else did I write? Okay, so one question I see all the time is, how do I get started? And a lot of y'all might have that question right now, especially as you're thinking of maybe starting this as a goal for 2020. So if you go to the announcement section of the Bookkeeping Side Hustle Facebook group, you will see a sticky post pinned up there, and it says like an article, links to an article like bestofbookkeepingsidehustle.com or something like that. That article, I think, would be a great place for someone who, especially people who are new, to go and read those articles, you know, that are linked to in that best of article. And there's specifically two there about how to get started. One will say how to get started with experience, if you're coming at this with some accounting and or finance background, and then how to get started without any experience at all. But when you're thinking about getting started, one piece of advice I have is to really reflect whether or not your nature is that of an employee or a contractor where you're working for someone else, or whether you're really an entrepreneur. And there are both ways are legitimate ways to approach this work, but they're very different. And I just think that some people just want to be a bookkeeper, and they know that that's like their personality, and they know that they'd be really great at it. And I think I have seen some people who are probably cut out to just be an awesome bookkeeper are trying to approach it where they're trying to create their own business too. And you can be a virtual bookkeeper and not have your own business. There are ways to freelance for someone else. And so there's but that's two different paths to take as you do this. Are you going to really start your own business? And that means everything. That means the marketing, the getting the clients, setting up your own systems. Or are you able to find a virtual job as a contractor? So think about that. That's something to really wrap your head around before you move too far. But basically, there are 4 steps to get started. You gotta know accounting. You gotta know a software. Bookkeeping these days is done in a software. You have to learn how to set up your business and your systems. That's if you're going to be an entrepreneur. And then you have to get clients. Those are the 4 things. So learn accounting, learn a bookkeeping software, learn how to have a business and have the systems required to have a bookkeeping business, and then how to get clients. So keep it simple, y'all. Everything that you need to do really should, especially at the beginning, should fit within one of those categories. And I think they're mostly in that order as well. Definitely don't go get a client before you know accounting. But kind of in the middle, I guess there are some flexibility there. Like maybe you do know accounting, maybe you're not super great at a software yet, but you already maybe have a client that you know would really want to work for you. Then you'd have to like expedite, like how are you going to learn that software as quickly as possible, or how are you going to learn those onboarding processes? And maybe you don't have that good of a process, but you're still able to bring that client on, but then you can work through the business side of stuff as you grow. But I would just say those are the kind of the 4 steps. Make sure you learn accounting, learn a bookkeeping software of your choice, learn how to set up a business and the systems you need to run it, and then get clients. So Teresa asked, do we have any questions yet? Y'all chime in with comments. Otherwise, I'm just winging it. Teresa had submitted a question about where have I had the most success gaining clients? And Rebecca Maki had also asked Oh no, sorry. Teresa asked about the clients, and then she also asked about pricing structure, and said Rebecca. So I'm going to tackle the gaining new clients thing first. And as I answer that, if anyone's listening, feel free to chime in on what your advice is for how to best get clients. Okay, but my answer. So I keep things really simple. I haven't ever advertised. I'm not wanting to take on a lot of new clients each month. I might want to take on 3 to 5 clients in a year, not 3 to 5 clients in a month. So at my scale, I don't know if I'm the exact best person to ask if you're wanting to get big, but my advice for me, I've just kind of looked within my natural circle. So I am a virtual bookkeeper. I don't go into anyone's office or anything like that. But my natural circle is, my friends, my family, people I went to college with, people I went to grad school with, my military spouse network, and like my kids network. So the baseball field, the carpool, we have to get out of our car to pick up our kids from school, when the school day's over, so we're all gathered together waiting to be let in. Those are all places where I have, found potential clients. There's a book that I haven't read it, but I heard it really broken down in detail by a guy named Dave Ramsey on his podcast. It's called Guerrilla Marketing. It's by an author named Jay Conrad, and that's guerrilla like the war, like guerrilla warfare, not like the wild animal. But it's this, and there's a similar concepts to a book in a book by Ken Coleman called The Proximity Principle. But both of those books are just like, how do you use your existing networks and put yourself around the people that you're wanting to work with, to just be influenced by. And so that's just kind of how I approach things. I'm just sort of always looking for, I don't know. That's how I've done it, is just my natural circle. Let me see what else I wrote about that. I have a sticker on my laptop, a big one that says "Need a bookkeeper? Let's talk." I try to make myself get out of the house to so people can see that, and I do think that sticker is going to lead to a client that's probably going to sign here at the beginning of this year. I am planning on, I have a high school kid that I know I bought that sticker from someone else, but I'm having a high school kid design a bunch of stickers of different colors that I can add to the bookkeeping sidehustle.com/store for folks to be able to buy, if y'all think that would be a good marketing method for you. Here's something else I've done. I picked up all the business cards that were laid out at my gym. And I sent an email to everyone, a personalized email, and saying who I was, saying we work out at the same place. I saw your card. Thought we could connect, and if you need bookkeeping help, let me know. And that led to 2 contacts. One is probably not going to go anywhere, but but I don't know, there's probably like 6 cards that were out, and so it wasn't a terrible response rate of getting them to call me back or, write me back. But one gal actually is kind of like a coach, and she invited me to be the guest speaker for her monthly mastermind group. And so because of that reach out, she's probably going to hire me for like a one-time cleanup, just for her, the end of the year. She's not ready to have full monthly bookkeeping yet. But I got to talk about bookkeeping and kind of really present myself in a room full of about like 20 other business owners. And so that opportunity was really good for me, and it really made me feel legitimate. And then I go to a co-working space. I have the lowest level membership plan, but I go a couple times a month. But then I can go to all the activities that they do too, and they have these lunchtime talks. They're called Lunch and Lightning Talks, and I presented there as well, and that led to one client that signed this year. It was a friend of a guy who heard me talk, but he was impressed by me and connected me with his friend, and then there's someone else who looks like they're going to need my help. I mean, I don't know if they'll accept or not, but I'm going to be able to get a proposal to someone in the new year. So those are just some ways that I have found. So those are 2 speaking opportunities that I've had. So I don't know if you can look for those in your area. What else have I done to get clients? So that's all over the place. So that's me. That's kind of how I run my business. It's kind of scrappy. It's no formal client acquisition plan. I guess, okay, so the last thing, so I finally created a Facebook page for my business, I think in September, and I started posting there, and I forced myself to try to be like moderately active on LinkedIn, y'all, like not even that great. Sometimes I just share stuff. Like I followed people on LinkedIn like Intuit. I follow the IRS, and every once in a while I'll just like or reshare some of the stuff that they post. But just that activity, I've had someone from, actually even literally just this morning, someone from high school, which was a long time ago, wrote me, and I know and he wrote me on LinkedIn. He sent me a message on LinkedIn. He's like, hey, I see you're like, you must know a lot bit about this. I got some questions for you. I'm starting a new company. I had someone, old sorority sister, reached out to me, and then a military spouse friend who I've lost touch with, but she, we know each other. Just because I was active on those. She's like, and this one gal who she did sign, my military spouse friend, she did sign with me last year, but she reached out to me and she just said, hey, like I see you just kind of keep coming up in my mind, and I thought I need to call Kate, and now she's paying me monthly. So I should have done that sooner. I was over a year and a half probably into my business before I even made a business Facebook page. And for me, I just post the same stuff that I put on LinkedIn to my business Facebook page. I'm not trying to be that fantastic it's not that planned out. Okay, so that's a question that was for Teresa's question about how to get clients. So now there was another question about pricing. Anyone else have any good, first of all, before we move on, anyone else have any good tips on getting clients? Feel free to chime in, and feel free to ask any other questions. I'll pause for just a second to give people a chance. I do see we have some folks watching, so don't be shy. Okay, so the pricing question, yes, that comes up a lot. My favorite resource to recommend, y'all, is a British guy named Mark Wickersham. He has like hard copy books you can buy. He's got a YouTube channel. He has like a mailing list. He has courses you can take. But he's got a lot of free stuff. So he is a good person, I think, just to get your head in the right space for how you should be thinking about pricing. But I will tell you how I've approached it. So my very first client, I had not worked for about 6 years, y'all. So I was making $0. And we agreed that she'd pay me $20 an hour. Now, that is not what I took Bookkeeper Business Launch, and that is not what that course recommends. I just did not have the guts to fully like throw out a monthly price like we're taught, and that's all. I mean, that's where the industry is heading, is towards value pricing. The confidence had been like taken out of my sales, professionally, just from being home so long, that I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I encourage you to be braver than me, and be more confident than me. But anyway, so that was my first client, and I was thrilled. I was happy. My husband bought me a bottle of champagne the first time I got paid for by her. It was great, and it was exciting. So that's where I started. And I've kind of just had this approach of like each client that I've gotten, I've tried to have them be more lucrative than the one before. And now I feel like I'm getting a pretty good rate. So many of the industry is heading towards monthly package or value pricing, where you're not counting your hours anymore. And the way that the software all works is that really helps, because you can become super more efficient over time. And so your kind of what you make per your effort goes up. And for me, I'm like really slow at the beginning with a new client, but I'm okay with that. That just is what it is. I don't have enough experience and I don't have enough volume of clients to where like I'm just like super fast. But once I get going, then I'm able to see like, oh yeah, I am making a good wage. So here's the deal: as you're calculating your wage, or when you're thinking about pricing, if you're wanting to do value pricing, the way I think about it, y'all, is there's still an hourly rate component to it. It's just kind of hidden. I'm calling it like an implied hourly rate. And the calculator that I started using the calculator that came with the Bookkeeper Business Launch course that I took. But it's got lots of functions, tons of functions. I haven't used any other calculators. I think there might be some free ones out there. But even that calculator is based on an hourly rate. Like, what is my desired hourly rate? And that's what it's like. It's kind of like the foundational number. And I just try to like keep making sure that I'm increasing that as I'm making proposals and bringing on new clients. So don't worry that like that it's a hard thing for you to figure out. Are you charging hourly or not? Basically, you're going to spend a certain amount of time on a client, and you're going to, even if you get a monthly fee, you have to take your hours you spend on that client and you divide that over the fee that you get, and that's kind of like your implied hourly rate for that client. Some months are going to be better than others because maybe they went on vacation for that month and so they don't have as many transactions, or maybe they did something really jacked up and you're going to have to think really, really hard, and your hourly rate's going to go really down that month. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to overthink it. So you know what you want to make. Mark Wickersham has a lot of material. He's done some research lately that might inspire you, where he polled a whole lot of bookkeepers, I think globally. I watched this, it was globally, and figuring out the like average rates that people charge for this field. And they should be pretty high. I watched it in September. I want to say like, I remember thinking that I was probably lower than what the average was, but that I was getting there. I think it was like 65 or 75 an hour is like where we like you need to be aiming if you want to be kind of like in the middle of the pack. So that's a high wage, y'all. That's why that's all the rage about this work right now, is that you have a chance to make a really, really good living, because you're utilizing the software and the tricks that a good expert in a software knows how to use to make it super fast. So you're able to, but the business owners don't know how to do these things because they're out running their business and making money and doing whatever they're an expert in, and they don't have time to learn a software and watch all of the webinars from the experts about how to be quick about stuff. So pricing, that was my answer about pricing. I don't have a fancy, I use the BBL calculator, but that's not a lot of rocket science. I mean, you have to, if you have any costs, you want to factor that in. The subscription to the software is the basic one, but you might be adding in apps. And then you have to think about how long do you think it's going to take you to do that work, and what do you want to make per hour, and that's kind of a very, very simplified way of figuring that out. I will say, so someone like me who kind of wants to be small, we're at a slight disadvantage because you do get better at over time at assessing how long something's really going to take. And I will tell you that there's going to be a client that you're probably going to get burned on. You're going to charge them $300 a month, and then you're going to quickly realize you should have charged them like 500. You can always go back. In my contract, I have a review. Some of the engagement letters I have said within a year pricing can be reviewed. Some of them say 6 months as well, but just as long as you have a way to reassess that. I mean, and you can always like bring it up with your client if your communication with that client is good. But if it's in the engagement letter, it makes it very easy to say, hey, yeah, about how much more difficult you were than we originally thought. We're going to need to up that price. Yeah, but I don't have a lot of experience with that. The more you do it, and I can tell the more I've done it, the better I get and the more comfortable I get at, like, okay, yeah, this person says that they don't have a hard business, but I know better now that, yeah, it's more complicated. Or, wow, like, yeah, this one really should be a breeze. So, if you're only wanting to do this, in the evenings or on weekends, early in the morning, and maybe just have 2 or 3 clients, you're not going to be great at pricing. You're going to need to think about, and hopefully you'll get a couple of those handful of clients that you want. And if that's all you want, then it's going to be think of it as a long game where you can up those prices if you need to, if they're really taking a lot more time than you thought. Otherwise, you need to get a good sense of what do you want to make per hour, because there's other jobs you could be doing, right? Like you can go drive for Uber, or you could go become a yoga instructor, like whatever your passions are. What are you needing to make? And if you can find clients that are willing to pay that, then don't sweat like having some hardcore pricing formula. I do not. I don't have them on my website. I just kind of keep them simple. I try to tailor it to each business's needs. All right, y'all. I'm talking a whole lot. I always do. What are some questions from the audience? If anyone's out there. Otherwise, I only have one more question that was submitted that I saw. Thumbs up if this is helpful. Happy faces. Hearts, floating hearts across my screen. Anybody? Okay. Anna Gloria asks, what is my client onboarding process like? And do I use an app? And this is going to be kind of, sorry, this is going to be lackluster, y'all. I don't have some detailed process because, again, I'm coming at this from, kind of within the cracks of my day as my children are getting older. I'm not bringing on tons of clients at a time. So I just have a checklist that came with the course that I took, and just try to go through that. Sometimes I don't even sweat like making sure I have every single thing, because lots of it's not required to get started. But I definitely do not use an app, Ana Gloria. You probably can, but anytime you use an app like that, like a practice management app, you need to. I run a lean practice, and so I don't have a lot of those like overall practice management apps because I just don't have the volume to make them worth it to me. It's worth it, if it takes me an extra 15 or 20 minutes to do something because I'm like hand typing an email 3 times a year to onboard my 3 new clients. I'd rather take that time than spend the money on some app. But there might be some apps out there that aren't that expensive. I just, the time it would take for me to investigate that and implement it, it's just not worth it. I do have a resource on bookkeepingsitehustle.com. If you go to the magnifying glass and search the word template, I wrote an article because I found like this great treasure trove on the Intuit, who's the owner of QuickBooks. They have, I think it's called their marketing hub. It's not called their learning library. Anyway, go to bookkeepingsitehustle.com and search for the word template. And if anyone's listening and is there and can find that article, but it has like this tons of resources of of checklists, and I think it even has a sample engagement letter. But there's lots of free stuff that you would be able to use there. So I would go checklist. I'm pretty certain that they have one there. I just used the one that came with the course that I took. Yeah, don't use an app though. All right, Paula asks, what insurance should we be looking at? So I have errors and omissions insurance, Paula. I use a company called Hiscox. And actually, going back to what I said at the beginning, if you'd like to support this page, if you go to bookkeepingsidehustle.com/insurance, I have a link there that I have an affiliate relationship with Hiscox, and so if you just get even just a free quote as you're shopping for your business insurance, it helps me out. So there's a shameless plug there. I think they might only be for America. I'm not 100% sure about that. But errors and omissions insurance. And if you search in our Facebook group, this question has been asked quite a bit. I think someone maybe even asked today about like the how much. And someone chimed in that they were like a broker, and they suggested, you need the level of insurance that is kind of commiserate with the size of a mistake that you can make. So I'm actually probably getting to the point where I need to up my level of insurance, probably. So yeah, but so the errors and omissions, it's called E&O insurance. It would cover you for any errors or omissions that you make in the client's books. You can also buy, some people suggest buying general liability insurance. That's another option, but the E&O insurance is like the specific one that we virtual bookkeepers specifically need. I pay monthly. It's a monthly recurring fee. I don't even think about it. They have my billing information. So they make it very, very easy. I think I pay like $26 a month for my insurance. And in the course that I took, he says one way you can do it is shop your insurances, figure out who you're going to use, tell them that you're not ready to pay yet, and then as soon as you have your first engagement letter signed, call your broker and say, okay, I'm ready to activate my insurance. But that's something you can get lined up ahead of time as you're trying to get started and find your first client. All right, what other questions do the folks have? Is anyone set on this being their business in 2020, making some big strides? Anyone willing to share a goal? Oh, here we go. I got some more. Michael asks, what does my app stack look like? You need to ask that question on the Facebook group, Michael. So I have started using Slack to communicate with my clients. I haven't implemented that with all of them yet, but I watched a YouTube article by Seth David of Nerd Enterprises, and he talked about how he had implemented that in his practice, and then how it's basically become like a requirement now, and that he doesn't email his clients. And so I'm starting to use that, and I'm liking it so far. It keeps everything very tidy. I was feeling all over the place, like trying to go back and look through emails. If I had it was hard for me to kind of just remember, because they might email you something and I might not look at that client for a while, because I'm not working on clients where I'm like having to be available on the day in, day out. And so, but I think I'm liking Slack for communication. So people use like bank fetching documents. I don't use that. All of my clients, I get their bank statements directly. I have read-only access to their bank accounts. It's just worked out that way. So I'm going in and I'm like looking at their checks because I'm like in their Wells Fargo account. That's really all I found that I needed. I work with books online. I just brought one client on in Wave this year. That was kind of like a goal of mine. I just kind of wanted to see what it was all about. I just kind of like the, I don't know, small guys, and Wave is kind of, for smaller companies that, might not be wanting to pay a monthly fee. So yeah, I have the bookkeeping software. I use Dropbox. I have started using a Google Sheet for my whenever I have questions about transactions, and I have put each worksheet is a different month. So like questions for November 2019, that would be, I put transactions in ask client category, and then I can run a report on ask client in QuickBooks, and then there might be 5 or 6 transactions in that, I don't know. I can export those and then I'm trying to keep them all in a Google Sheet. I don't know. I'm not 100. Someone can copy that idea and see if they like it. It's going pretty well though, so then all I have to do is send a link, because it was getting kind of nasty looking whenever I would go into ask client. I would export it, then I would copy it, and I'd like put it in an email and say, here are the questions that I have, and it doesn't present well on an email. So I was thinking, okay, I'm going to send them a link to the Google Sheet that they can just type in on the next row, like give me the answer, like right in that line. That's about my app stack. I have a goal in 2020 of maybe creating a Zap in Zapier. My favorite people that I follow in the accounting world who are good at tech talk about creating Zaps. I don't know if that would even be considered part of my tech stack or not. But Michael, I'm keeping things simple and streamlined. I'm a reluctant tech user. I'd be curious what other people's tech stacks are. Feel free to chime in and answer, Michael. And you can also ask in the group, Michael, if you have specific questions about an app stack. I don't know. I just feel like lots of times people can get pretty app happy, and that's not me. And I think you can, especially at the beginning, I was trying to keep my costs down so low. I mean, I knew that I wasn't going to have a big scale, and some of the apps you need to have scale to make them worth it, I think. I use a payroll service provider. That's not really an app, but I don't do my own I don't do payroll, so I use full service. I use Gusto. I have one client that I work with on Patriot as well, but that's via someone I subcontract for, so that wasn't my decision. That's not really an app though. Carrie asked insurance cost per month year. I paid $26, I think, for 500,000, Carrie, and I do not have cybersecurity insurance. If there's a hacker listening to this, please don't hack. Does anyone know about cybersecurity insurance? I started to hear people talking about it more. I didn't think there was a lot of products out there right now, though. So I'd be curious to know if people are buying it, what they're paying for it, what it actually covers. All right, what other questions do y'all have? I think I'm caught up in the comments bar. I'll keep talking a little bit while people hopefully can chime in if they have any questions. If not, just say thanks and good night. But if y'all go to the events tab in the Facebook group, we've got some other ones coming up over the next 2 months that I'm excited about. We have one about living on the road, like being a digital nomad, with a woman who does this line of work on a pretty large scale from her RV. We're going to talk with Halon Tax, which is a tax company that has partnered with that has partnerships with bookkeepers. So, and I just signed my most recent client. They're who I'm testing out my Halon relationship with. That Halon's going to, as part of my contract when I brought them on board, having Halon do their tax filing for the year was, part of my sales pitch. And so we're going to have Christopher from Halon talk about that. I think that's in like 2 weeks. I've got a graphic designer who's going to talk with us about kind of some do-it-yourself logo and design tips. We're going to have a LinkedIn, like a HR LinkedIn expert, talk to us about how we can make our LinkedIn profiles better. And then I just met a gal. She's just joined our group recently, but she's one of the trainers for Intuit, and she's going to teach us how to make our pro advisor profiles better and stand out and attract clients. I have the QuickBooks Advanced certification, and I get like no love from the pro advisor site, so I don't know what's wrong with my profile, but hopefully she can tell us how to make it better. And I would imagine that would apply to lots of other places where you can have a profile, like LinkedIn or Xero. I think you can even have a profile in Wave and be like if businesses use Wave and they're wanting advice, you can have a profile in Wave. I don't have one yet. Actually, that's a good point. I also like to make people know. So I use QuickBooks Online. I've never used desktop. I've only used online, and but that's not the only way to go. For people who are trying to do this, professionally, but on the side, I really recommend sticking with one bookkeeping software. But I want people to know that QuickBooks and the Intuit products are not the only way to go. They definitely have the biggest name recognition, but there's a lot of resources on my website about Xero. That would be the other one that I would recommend as a cloud-based software application that small businesses like. And if you search the website, bookkeepingsidehustle.com, search for Xero, you're going to find a few articles about that. And I think it's worth a look. But I recommend you stick with one if you're going to kind of stay on the smaller side. You just won't get the efficiencies of having 3 clients in QuickBooks and 3 clients in Xero. You just won't be as good at the software. Like the way we really start to make our money is when our fingers are hot on the keyboard in that software. So it's hard to do that whenever you're bouncing back between softwares. Michael asks, do you offer accounts payable services? I do not offer that to anyone. I think I have it on my website that I do. I took the Bill.com certification. That's another, like, just a free little tip. There's a lot of these like apps that you can become, certified in, or some sort of like advisor in. And if you're kind of, especially if you were maybe more like me, where like I was sort of a stay-at-home mom, I could watch those videos and learn a little bit. Like it's a lot of it's free to do, and you just watch videos and take some quizzes. Bill.com is a way that people do accounts payable that I know of. Michael, Seth David, who is one of like the YouTubers that I watch, he has been recommending something called Bill Bees or Bill's Bees. You could tag him in the Facebook group if you really are interested in getting that exact answer. But I just don't have any clients that have needed it. It's a little bit like a level of complexity that I'm not dying to offer. But people definitely do, Michael. Like that's a easy thing to offer people. So go for it and charge for it, and it's a good service, and they definitely have apps that can make it possible to do virtually. So I think a lot of people you would create the bill, and then it's like an approval process. So your client, all they would have to do is, maybe hit approve after you've done all the work. Having that checks and balance is really good to kind of keep yourself safe and keep the client safe as well. Or if they have someone else in their office who could be the approver, but it's good best practice to have multiple people preparing bills, and then 2 different people preparing and then approving. But the softwares that are available out there for accountants to do accounts payable allow all that to happen. So hopefully that answered your question, Michael. I'm not averse to doing it. I might do it for someone. Maybe my next client will need accounts payable. Maybe that'll be their pain point, and I can say, okay, I'll pay your bills for you. All right, well, I am running out of the things that I had planned on saying, so if there are no more questions, I'll stick around for another minute, but I just want to let y'all know that I'm hopeful for a great 2020 for me and for y'all. Most people don't take action, so if you just keep taking steps forward every day, you'll be way ahead of most people. And I guess in closing, I'll just say again, yeah, I've shared at the beginning, if you go to bookkeepingsidehustle.com/support, there are lots of ways that you can just say thanks. A lot of them are free. Then there are lots of ways that you can, if you go to bookkeepingsidehustle.com/support, there are things that I have affiliates for that on your journey, as you're growing your practice, you could, if you just read that page, you could come back and remember, oh yeah, I want to say thanks to Kate for what she does in the group and for the webinars she does. So I will put that out there. One thing on there is called Ko-fi, K-O-F-I, which is a way to also just, it says you can buy me a coffee if you want to do that. Otherwise, I see no more questions, so I don't want to have to keep everyone waiting too long. So y'all know I'm always running the group, so tag me if you have something specific. There are a lot more experienced accountants in the group too, so I love that we get a lot of people chiming in to help new folks, because I got questions too. All right, I see no more questions, so I'm going to sign off. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and hope you have a productive work week next week too. Bye.